Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something literally every single one of us shares, but, we rarely stop to actually think about it. It's the human journey, from experience to understanding. We're constantly going through our days, accumulating all these events and interactions and moments, but how often do we actually transform those raw daily experiences into profound personal understanding? So let's take a structured visual walk through the mechanics of a well-lived life, using some deeply insightful source material to guide the way.
Let's kick things off with a question that, honestly, totally stopped me in my tracks when I first read it. Are you living many distinct days, or just one day repeated? It's a pretty powerful provocation, right? See, our habitual routines naturally want to just repeat themselves if we don't actively step in and change them. Our preference for the known, the safe, it's completely natural. But if we leave it unchallenged, we end up living on a passive loop. The materials we're looking at today challenge us to actively shape our journey instead of just letting familiar habits dictate the story.
Okay, moving right into Chapter 1, the power of choice.
So, there's this really stark contrast between two modes of living. Just think about your daily commute, or maybe how you've navigated your career path up to this point. On one hand, you have passive acceptance. That's just drifting. It's letting circumstances make the calls for you, like taking a job just because it was offered, or staying in a rut because, well, it's there. On the flip side is active intention. This means making deliberate choices and actually writing your own story. The sources highlight a fundamental truth here. Avoiding a decision is, in fact, a decision itself. When you defer a choice, you're literally just handing the steering wheel over to circumstance or to someone else. Destiny doesn't rest with fate. It rests entirely with the deliberate decisions you claim for yourself.
And when we avoid those choices, we end up in this state of limbo. It's basically a state created by procrastination, where decisions are left totally unmade. It resolves absolutely nothing and just leaves issues suspended in thin air. We so often put things off, kind of hoping they'll just resolve on their own, right? But the sources remind us that delaying rarely removes complexity. It usually just adds to it. Because our time is limited, an unresolved choice isn't a problem avoided, it's lost potential. Committing to a clear course of action, even if that action is deliberately choosing to set an issue aside for now, turns procrastination into actual progress.
That brings us to Chapter 2, Embracing the Lived Experience.
The source material offers this really profound reminder. It notes that value can be found even in minor events, which sometimes hold significance that outweighs their apparent size. Look, some experiences arrive completely unbidden or even unwanted, but living fully means engaging with what actually happens rather than constantly trying to avoid it. Surviving a hardship or just absorbing the lessons from seemingly trivial everyday moments, these are the exact textures that build our resilience. Often, it's the memory of an experience, not just the raw lesson itself, that carries the greatest weight over time.
Think about it this way. Every single situation offers a choice between two mentalities. You've got a constructive focus and a negative focus. And negativity rarely actually earns its place through necessity. Since our habitual thought patterns tend to just repeat whichever path we've taken before, deliberately choosing that constructive side over and over again will gradually reshape your default reality. It's all about limiting your exposure to the things that drain you and consciously shifting your attention to what brings genuine meaning.
All right, Chapter 3, Breaking the Daily Routine. So, how do we actually make our days an adventure? It really comes down to a few intentional acts: seeking new experiences, meeting new people, and this is a huge one, approaching familiar tasks with fresh curiosity. But the absolute crucial point here is deciding in advance what the day is going to include. Treating your day as a small adventure doesn't mean just leaving it up to chance. When you consciously decide what a day will hold and where it's going to lead, you produce a much more satisfying outcome than if you just, sit back and let the day happen to you.
Because any pursuit, whether it's a project, a relationship, or literally a whole lifetime, follows a very distinct pattern. The beginning is always full of potential and possibility. The end results in either satisfaction or regret. But the middle is the messy part. It's a period of either growth or stagnation. That middle phase absolutely requires our active choices and our fresh curiosity to keep us from stagnating. That's how we ensure that when we finally reach the end, we're looking back with satisfaction rather than regret.
Let's move on to Chapter 4, Belief, Effort, and Reward. Here is a total game changer of a realization. Limitations only bind us if we believe they exist. Our sources reveal this surprising insight that so much of what feels totally impossible is actually just an inherited assumption. Honestly, whether a limitation physically exists matters far less than whether you believe it exists. Belief is the key that allows you to dismiss or overcome it. When you have genuine belief in an outcome, your imagination, your desire, and your conviction all work together to expand your constraints and make the impossible attainable.
But building on that belief requires a process, kind of like following a recipe. First, you have to gather your resources and ingredients. Next, you combine them with a clear plan and the right proportions. And finally, you apply timing and patience. We live in a world obsessed with instant gratification, right? But meaningful change doesn't just happen the very second you decide you want it. Just like baking, if you skip the prep work or rush the timing, you're going to end up with a collapsed cake. Sustained effort and patience, that's the heat that actually makes the recipe work.
So what exactly is the reward we're cooking up here? Well, we have to define our own personal success. The sources heavily challenge the external markers of success that society usually defines for us. Wealth doesn't just mean money. For you, success might mean mastery of a craft, peace of mind, deeply strong relationships, or just vibrant health. Because these terms carry such deeply personal meaning, validating your own journey means clearly defining what fulfillment actually looks like to you. That way, you aren't spending years and years chasing markers of success defined by somebody else.
Bringing us to our final section, Chapter 5, Designing a Meaningful Life.
We so often talk about finding meaning, right? Like it's some hidden treasure buried in the sand, just waiting for us to trip over it. But the text suggests a major paradigm shift to creating meaning. The meaning of life isn't a fixed answer out there waiting to be discovered. It's a question of what meaning you decide to bring to it. You get to actively choose what purpose is substantial enough to justify your effort.
And we are continually creating that meaning across time. Think about it. Your past identity was shaped by chance and circumstance. You just need to acknowledge that foundation. But your present is completely open to revision and new ideas. You get to make deliberate choices right now, and your future identity is built entirely through intention by asking better questions. The crucial takeaway here is that your identity is never permanently fixed from the outset. You are actively building it. That means at any exact moment, you can reconsider your current path and completely rewrite your story. As you reshape that story, keep this core principle in mind. Genuine progress depends on asking better questions, not just finding quick answers. The value of an answer is largely determined by the quality of the question that produced it in the first place. And honestly, it is perfectly okay if some of those questions remain open. Life doesn't need to be completely solved immediately to be thoroughly enjoyed. A steady, genuine search is just so much more productive than treating every uncertainty in your life as an urgent problem that has to be fixed right this second. Drawing from all the insights we've unpacked today, the sources identify some core pillars of a life well lived. It starts with building meaningful connections and cultivating memories that hold lasting value. But it goes way beyond just ourselves. Supporting others through hardship, helping them find their way, provides some of the most durable meaning available to us. Finally, aligning with group consciousness to bring a shared intention to a common goal generates this incredible, sustained momentum that we simply cannot achieve working in isolation. These are the elements that make the journey truly memorable. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. What meaning will you choose to bring to your journey today? Remember, there's no pausing and there's no turning back. Your life, when examined closely, is something being written in real time through your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Please don't leave your choices unclaimed. Take active ownership of your unfolding story. Gather your ingredients and make today distinct. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to step out and truly understand the incredible journey you are on.